Welcome to Imprint, a podcast about creating a home and life you love. I'm Natalie Walton, an interior designer, stylist, and best-selling author focused on an holistic approach to homes. Each week, I'm sharing insights and interviews about the creative process to help you enhance both your interiors and well-being, as well as provide you with the tools and resources to make considered and sustainable choices with all that you create. Hello everyone, welcome to Imprint. I'm really excited to share this episode with you today because it's important. The work that we do now and the preparation that we do now for this time of year, which can be really intense and really busy, will really set us up for success in the weeks and months and even the quarters to come. Because the work that goes on now really does set the foundation for the following year. And over the past few years, probably about over the past 5 years, I've been really intentional with how I plan quarter four and how I laid the foundation for the upcoming year as well. And this has served me really well. It's enabled me to be able to take time off over the Christmas period with my family, to be able to completely switch off and be 100% present with my family, really enjoy some downtime, rejuvenate, recuperate. And it really is the work that you do now that will make that possible. So I wanted to share with you what has worked well for me in the past and what I will be implementing right now. I mean, I'm literally sharing the process that I'm going through in real time. So I hope that you're going to find this episode really valuable. And as always, if you are a new listener, then I encourage you to hit the follow button. Or if you are a long-time listener and you haven't as yet left a rating or a review, this might be a good opportunity because this is going to be a bumper special episode for you, and I'm really excited to share it. Okay, so let's get into it. So let's just reflect for a moment. It's always important at the start of any process to really reflect on what has happened previously, what worked and what didn't. And I think that I know for me, it's really important to set some realistic expectations about what is coming up in relation to this period. So in the US, obviously you have Thanksgiving, which is a huge part of the year. And increasingly, I think as we become more global in relation to our businesses, we need to have this awareness of what's also happening in other countries. Within the rest of the world, we've got obviously the kind of Christmas period. Maybe you celebrate Hanukkah, whatever it is for you and your family and your faith. There are often lots of different types of celebrations at this time of year. And certainly within Australia, we have our big summer holidays coming up. And so we have this kind of double-edged sword, if you will, of, we've got the big push for, the holiday season, but also this summer holiday period as well. And lots of businesses will do shutdowns. Lots of people go on, family holidays, vacations. And if you are in the sort of interior design industry, and actually, to be honest, it's pretty much across the board, there's lots of shutdowns. And so trades will put down their tools. So they won't be available. Suppliers will close their doors. So you won't be able to be ordering anything. And so it really is a big shutdown period at the end of the year. So you need to really have your plan in place so that you can be prepared for all of that. As well as obviously, the kind of the work considerations. We always have lots of school concerts, school performances. There's, for that after school activities, there may be concerts or finals in relation to those. There's always that sort of sense of people wanting to catch up, in your personal life before the end of the year. Let's meet up for drinks or dinner, or let's catch up before the end of the year. Personally, within our family, my husband, Daniel, he has his birthday just a few days before Christmas, and it's going to be a big birthday this year. So we're going to be making plans in relation to that. And often we go away. So there is a lot of prepping of the house before we go away. And these might be all of the things that you're experiencing as well. Obviously, from a kind of client or customer base, if you've got a creative business, if you're a creative professional, there's often a big push for marketing towards the end of the year, whether that relates to gift giving, whether that relates to just acknowledging the season and what's happening and, making clients aware of what's coming up in the new year. Obviously, there can be a lot of activity in relation to photo shoots so that you've got that content for this particular season. There's a lot of content that you can run all year round, but I do tend to find that it's quite unique that you need to acknowledge the season of summer if you're in Australia, or obviously winter if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, and also just acknowledge the season of Christmas holidays and, that whole period, because it is very front and center. And I feel that you can't really ignore it in terms of the way that your social feed looks. There needs to be some kind of sense of that because, there's so much activity in relation to it. And it can be a really busy time in terms of business. It can be a busy time in terms of people wanting products shipped or, an increasing customer inquiries. So it can be really busy. If you've got clients, they might be wanting to finish up projects before the end of the year. You might do an annual price rise with your rates. And if so, you need to have a plan in relation to communicating that to your email list or to existing clients so they can book in now, perhaps at the old price before the prices go up for the new year. You might be sending out thank you cards and gifts to customers or clients, those special customers that have been, repeat customers throughout the year, or if you've got clients and that you've worked with them, how do you want to acknowledge them and thank them for their business for this year? And then, of course, we've got the planning. We've got the planning for Q4 to make it a really strong year. We've actually already done this within Design and Grow, and we've had a big session on really focusing on this quarter. So if you haven't done that, it is really important to look at what you're going to do, what your goals and your focus is going to be. We also need to start to think about 2025 and the planning in relation to that so that you're on the front foot. And I find that it's really important to do that work now while you're in that headspace, while you've got a really deep understanding of where you're at financially within the business. I never, ever leave it until the actual year. It's always something that I do ahead of time. I'm actually going to do a podcast on this next week, and I've got a big planning strategy session that I'm going to be doing within Design and Grow, and we'll be having some guest passes for that if that's of interest to you. So listen out for that. But it is so important to do that Q4 planning and also 2025 planning. So as you can see, this is a lot to be doing at this time of year. And it can quickly start to feel like, oh my gosh, where do I even start? Or I feel exhausted before I've even begun. And I don't want you to feel like that, because it is important that if you have a creative business, you want to be on the front foot, you want to be organized, you want to know what you've got coming up, and you want to finish the year strong. This is going to be really relevant for you, this episode, if you are juggling business and family or personal commitments. And also if you just want to make sure that you're creating time for you to be able to enjoy this time of year. Sometimes it can feel like, oh, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. But there is actually a lot of joy that can come around this time of year. So how can you schedule your time? And like I said, I'm going to be sharing what I do. How can you do that in a way that actually allows for downtime, allows for those moments of connection with your family, so that when you are at that concert, you can be completely present and you're not worrying about work, you're not worrying about deadlines, but you are completely present in the moment. And this episode is going to be really practical. And like I said, I'm going to share my personal plan for how I'm going to get everything done based on what's worked previously. And as I've touched on, we've done this for this quarter already within Design and Grow, what we need to focus on. And so I'm going to touch on that, but we're also going to look at the other elements and how we can blend them together in a way that feels good and in alignment, and making sure that we're also getting stuff done. So the work that you do with me today in this episode and implementing these ideas are going to be key to ensuring that you don't feel stressed or that you don't feel like your anxiety levels are rising. So we've got a lot to do. So let's get into it and just make sure that you implement these ideas. Don't just listen, don't just consume. Set aside some time today, even if you can, straight after this episode. I'd probably allow at least 30 minutes, but more realistically, probably around an hour, so that you can really set yourself up for success in the next 4 months. And which I'm kind of taking that as like this quarter and then that first month of 2025. And I'll get into why that is important in a moment. So the challenge is at this time of year is that, as I've touched on, we can get caught up in other people's agendas. It's easy to get overwhelmed with commitments from family, friends, clients, customers, and that can feel like you're leaving little room for personal priorities. And this is when we start to feel like we don't have control over our own time. We can be reactive, not proactive. With so much going on, we can fall into the trap of reacting what seems to be urgent tasks rather than planning ahead. And this just basically creates a cycle of stress. All of those last minute decisions. And this is when we are being inefficient. This is when we're often, creating a headache for ourselves in terms of our finances too, because we're not being productive with our time, and mistakes can happen as well. We can get caught in the trap of too many commitments, whether it's social events, client projects, or family activities. There's a tendency to take on more than we can realistically manage. And this can obviously result in burnout and decreased productivity as well. We can also really struggle with making clear boundaries, both professionally and personally. They can blur sometimes during this holiday season, and it can make it really difficult to switch off. And that feeling of that you're constantly juggling too many balls at once and you're being stretched too thin. Have you ever experienced that? I'm sure that you are not alone in that. So like I said, we're going to get into all of this. And it's so easy as well to get distracted from your long-term goals. So, the pressure of these seasonal demands can distract you from bigger long-term goals. And the focus shifts to, we start to then scramble and go to being in that reactive mode rather than focusing on what did I set out to achieve at the start of the year? Can you even remember that? And then it can really make it hard to stay aligned with what's truly important for your personal growth and your business development as well. So what we need to do is we need to set clear priorities instead of getting caught up in others' agendas. And we need to really take charge of our schedule by defining what truly matters and staying focused on your own goals. And when we set clear boundaries and we're intentional with our time, we can really avoid getting sidetracked by these external demands. We need to be proactive instead of reactive. So planning ahead to anticipate challenges and allocate time for key tasks. And taking this more proactive approach, such as creating a plan for the season, really helps reduce last minute stress and just allows you to stay in control. This is important, we need to master the art of saying no instead of overcommitting. So we need to prioritize quality over quantity. Remember that, quality over quantity, by carefully selecting commitments that align with what's most important to you and your capacity, and we're all in different seasons. Sometimes we might have sick parents. Sometimes we might have sick children, or, we've got other things that come up. And not only in this season, literally of, whether you're going into winter or summer, but also this season of your life, things can change. And so you need to be adjusting for that as well. And obviously saying no to what doesn't serve your goals and enables that you can really focus on what matters most. We need to create strong boundaries instead of letting them blur. So clearly separating work, personal and social time, and setting boundaries really allows you to be present in each area. And that is so important to really, also allow time for self-care as well during this period. And we need to stay aligned with those long-term goals instead of getting distracted. So keeping your big picture goals in mind throughout the season, checking your progress, making adjustments to ensure that you're moving forward on important projects, even amongst all of the seasonal demands. So, like I said, for me, more than any other time of the year, I really take the time to be clear on what's most important to me and make it a priority. So this is what I want you to do, is get really clear on what's most important to you at this time of year. Otherwise, it's really easy to feel engulfed by everything that's going on around you. And when you take this strategy and this approach, it will set yourself up to actually enjoy the downtime, because then you can rest easy knowing that you've done the work. As I mentioned, my favorite feeling is closing my laptop at the end of the year, knowing that I've reached my goals, that I've got a plan in action for the new year, that I've automated everything that I can so I don't have to be physically present for most of my work tasks, if not all of them. And then I can actually enjoy that quality time with my family. My phone is off, my laptop is packed away, and it really is my favorite feeling. But it hasn't always been this way. I've had to be really intentional. There've been tears, there've been meltdowns, and I had to make a decision about what did I want. And I had that realization that it was completely up to me. I was the one who was determining my destiny. I was the one responsible for what this time of year looked like. And this was the process that I created that I'm going to now really break down for you. Okay, the first big idea, are you ready? Is that you need to master your time. So you need to take control of your schedule by prioritizing and time blocking key tasks, which will allow you to focus on what matters most during the busy season. So how this works is that you need to identify the most critical areas for both your personal and your professional life. So family time, those family commitments, client deadlines, revenue goals, these all need to be part of your plan, and you need to allocate dedicated time blocks for each. So for instance, you need to set non-negotiable time for those family activities, such as, the holiday concerts or the school performances, and carve out focused work hours that will really have an impact on your year-end goals. So what happens is that when you break your schedule into these clear time blocks, you eliminate multitasking, which has been proven does not work. And you really will create that sense of not only balance, but that sense of control within yourself. When you start to be reactive to what's happening with everyone else, that's when you can lose that feeling of control, because you're in reactive mode all the time. Whereas when you literally create time blocks, and I really encourage you, if you're not doing this already, to use an online calendar such as Google Calendar. That's what I use. And I literally create time blocks on my calendar, big chunks of time. So like at least 2-hour blocks at a time. And I color code those things because that's just the way that my brain works. I like to see different colors for different types of activities. And it really helps you make that decision when you're even just inserting it into the calendar of, is this the thing that I really need to be doing? And that when it's in there and you're looking at it, you're less likely to get distracted by like, oh, I'll just check this, or, oh, I'll just do that, because you know that you've just got that 2-hour block to do that thing. So it really is powerful. It really does work. And this is the thing that I do all the time. And it's especially important at this time of year whereby, you've got so many things on your plate and you need to sort of really be clear about making sure that you're getting the most important work done. So the first part of the process, though, before I get it into the calendar, and this is kind of step one, is that in a notebook, I would really encourage you to do a brain dump of all the things that you need to do. And the advantage of when you do this year after year is that you can look back to your calendar of how you've blocked that time the previous year, so that you can sort of see, okay, you can see what all those performances were. Now we've got 4 children. So we have 4 sets of activities for all those children. The school play that they're practicing, and the concert, and the this, and the parents get together. And, so for 4 children, we have all of those things. But when you look back, you can start to see, okay, that was in the second last week of term, or that was the last week of term. And so you get a sense of what those rhythms will look like. And if you've never done that before, do it this year so that you're even setting yourself up for success at the end of next year. It really does it's a kind of calendar trick that compounds over time. It really does. So I really encourage you to do that. But like I said, in your notebook, really do a brain dump of like all the things that we spoke about at the top of this episode. So what does that look like for you? Will you be having catch-ups? Do you have any birthdays that are, key family birthdays? Do you have commitments with your children? Do you have, particular work projects that you're working on? Like, what are all those things? Because I know for me that the clearer I am at the start, the better I can plan. And I also know that for me, within those last, say, 2 weeks of term, I have to really lighten my load. I don't want to be doing any kind of heavy lifting activities such as, batch recording podcasts or doing big deliverables for clients or having any photo shoots in those last 2 weeks of term, because I know there needs to be a level of flexibility because I'm not always given all the dates ahead of time. And so I just know that things will come up. And that just then gives me a little bit of breathing space so that I can actually ease into the sort of the school holiday period rather than kind of coming to like a screeching halt, which is not good for your adrenal system, and like, it's just, you don't want to be in that situation. So really, the more that you can front load this quarter and these kind of months, the better. That's my feeling, because you're already in that momentum, and that's why you need to be doing this work now. So the next part, once you've got that long list of like all the things that you can think of that are going to be coming up, like I said, the cards for the clients or the presents for the teachers or the gifts for whoever, get all of those things down, all of the activities that you need to do, and then you need to prioritize. So get clear on what's going to have the most impact. For your children, it's going to be for you to be there and to be really present. So, if those are things that are important for you, then really make them a priority. We have lots of activities at this time of year as well. So we do an Advent activity calendar. We've got an Advent book calendar. So again, the more that I can prepare in advance, I know these things are coming up. I need to put it in the calendar. I need to schedule these things in so that, I'm not up till midnight wrapping books, which that has happened in the past. So, again, the more that I'm on the front foot, the better it is for everyone, because otherwise then I'm tired and cranky the next day. It's not good for anyone, and it's not really the spirit of the season. So for you, really look at that list and ask yourself, what is going to have the most impact? If you've got a client presentation, that's going to be important. If you've got to get proposals out, or you've got to let clients know about your price rises or shipping cutoff dates, whatever the things that are going to be key for either booking new clients, making money, or setting yourself up for success in the following year, then those are the things that you really need to do. And really look at what can you plan ahead of time? What can you front load, such as ordering and writing thank you cards or scheduling your emails? What can you do, earlier rather than later, so that you're not going to be on that stressful end of the month or the season? And also, this is really important as well. Make time for yourself in your schedule. And this can look as simple as making sure that you're getting enough sleep, that you're getting in a walk, that you are doing activities that will fill your cup. And maybe that is just learning to say no. Maybe it's, saying no to drink that drains you or food that leaves you feeling flat. They can be really simple things that you can do, and just a reminder to yourself, to really look after yourself during this period. What can you do that will make you feel good? Is it making sure that you've always got like a large bottle of water next to your desk so that you're always hydrated and feeling good? Or that you've got, fruit in the fruit bowl so that you're snacking on fruit and not things that are going to leave you with a sugar crash. So just looking for those simple things that you can make sure that you're going to be looking after yourself as well. So I want you to think about, where are you right now in relation to actually making a plan for this time of year? What have you done previously, and how did that work out for you? And how can you put the steps into action now so that you can start to make this happen? So like I said, really encourage you after this episode, if you can, to just block out an hour and create that list and start scheduling it out so that you can prioritize your time. So the next big idea is to elevate your experience. And the way that you do this is to delegate and automate. So empower yourself by delegating and automating routine tasks so you can focus on high priority activities and elevate your results. So by delegating, automating, and streamlining, this will really help free up your time for those high impact tasks and really maximize your efficiency and reduce your stress as we go into this season. So delegate tasks where possible, both at home and in business. Use your family. If you've got children that are older, really, this is the time to get them to make the cards for the teachers or make the presents for the teachers. Get them involved so that you're not doing everything. For instance, with me, with my children for the Advent activity calendar. So, I can now say to them, I want you to create a list, and then I will shuffle them up depending on what that is. Or maybe this year I might go, you know what? You guys can create this and I will help you execute it. So look at what can you delegate even within your own family. How can you divide and conquer? Maybe if you've got a partner and you do have multiple children, it's that one of you will look after all the activities in relation to one child and the other person in relation to the other child. Look at how can you simplify the process. And also, that's in relation to, say, your personal life, but then in relation to business, what processes can you make sure that you've got set up, such as email follow-ups or relation to project management? How can you streamline repetitive tasks with templates and checklists? What can you outsource to really free up your time? There are so many little ways that you can do this, but if you're doing something more than once, for instance, if you've got any kind of email, if you've had to write that more than once, that should have a templated response that you can copy and paste if you have to do it yourself, or, start to accumulate these things so that you can get somebody on your team to do that for you if you've got team members. And obviously this will really reduce the amount of, those like little time switching context tasks that just can really drain you. You'll start to become much more efficient. So if you haven't heard of the Eisenhower Matrix before, or if you have, but you just need a quick refresher, I'm going to go through it because it really is something that I use as a system to prioritize my tasks. And basically, it's also known as the urgent important matrix. And it's a way so that you can really focus on what you need to be doing. So in the first quadrant, this is urgent and important. These are the things that you want to do. So these are tasks that require immediate action and are crucial to achieve important goals or address pressing issues. So these can be things like deadlines, urgent client work, or personal emergencies. So these are the things that you do straight away. And in general, it's good to have, like, if it takes less than 2 minutes, just do it. That can be an easy way to just get stuff done as well. So really think about that. Quadrant 1 is the urgent and important. And when you're in a busier season, you really need to focus on these tasks. Quadrant 2 is urgent, but not important. So these are things that you can plan. This is what we're doing right now. These are tasks that are important for long-term success, but don't necessarily have to be done right now, right this minute. So these are relegated to, this is more like strategic planning, goal setting, and personal development. So this is when we are planning for the future and we're scheduling time to work on these tasks. Quadrant 3 is urgent, but not important. And these are things that you should delegate. So these tasks are time sensitive, but they don't contribute significantly to your long-term goals. They are often interruptions or activities that can be handled by someone else. So these are non-essential emails, a lot of admin, and really look at ways that you can delegate these tasks either to others. There's lots of software out there that you can use, or maybe these are things that you need to put into a Google document and then have a batch session of creating systems or processes or automations in relation to these different things. Or how can you batch these tasks as well? And quadrant 4 is not urgent and not important, so eliminate. So these tasks provide little or no value and often distractions or a waste of your time. So this is, and we all know this, mindless browsing, unnecessary meetings, excessive social media. And look at ways that you can eliminate these tasks or minimize them as much as possible. So, like I said, just quickly, the 4 quadrants. The first one is urgent and important. These are the things you need to do. So, from that list that you've just created, that brain dump, it can be good to just create like a cross, like a line down and a line across. And in that top right-hand quadrant, these are the things that you're going to do. These are urgent and important. Quadrant 2, the next one down, is plan. That's not urgent, but these are important. Quadrant 3, so that's sort of like if we're going clockwise, it's between like 2:30 and 2:45. Quadrant 3 is urgent but not important. So these are things, what can you delegate? What can you automate? And what can you batch? So that's a really good quadrant for batching as well. And then quadrant 4 is not urgent and not important. So what can you eliminate? What can you delete from your list? And when we do that time blocking exercise of putting in like, okay, for the next 2 hours, I'm going to do business development and focus up on any leads, people who've maybe expressed an interest in what I do, but I haven't followed up with them. When you start to put things like that in your calendar, what happens is you're less likely to do mindless browsing or unnecessary meetings because you know you have to get that thing done. And with any meetings, have a really clear start and stop time. Meetings can be such a huge waste of time and they can bleed so much into really important time that you've got. So really have a clear agenda and always be moving them to be finished, like always be closing them so that it's clear, like, okay, so we're just wrapping up and, these are the things we need to do. This is what we need to move into action. Anything else before we just quickly wrap up, and like sort of say, before we finish and we've got 5 more minutes, or clearly defining how long that meeting is going to go for. So, like I said, when you've got that list of tasks, you need to time block them into your calendar. Set aside time to do this and know what you need to do for the quarter. The key ones, you will have some things where if you've got marketing activities for Christmas, let's say, then, or maybe a photo shoot, okay, put it in the calendar. And even if you don't think, well, I don't know when the photographer's available, put in when's an ideal date for you and work that way, because you need to start somewhere. So you can't just put off everything, forever. Or sort of go, oh, when I find that out. No, put it in the calendar now. Create a rhythm for the weeks ahead so that you know that you're always focusing on the most important activities, such as those business development days or mornings, and also put into your calendar batching content creation, whether that's for social media, if you've got a podcast, a blog, whatever that is, whatever content you create, so that you've got enough done. And this is key. And this is what I do every single year, so that you've got enough done all the way through to the end of January. So I don't want to be doing tasks like that in January because I'm not in the right headspace. When I come back in January, like it's inevitable that, we've just been on holidays that, it's going to take us a while to warm up. So I want to make sure that everything is done for January so that I can ease into the new year. That is what works well for me. I mean, maybe you're able to kind of sprint off in January, but I really like to take that time to decompress. It's summer and enjoy summer. So I batch all my content to the end of January. I batch all my emails through to the end of January. And it's also important to let clients know your holiday hours as well. So I want you to think about, how are you in relation to, delegating and automating your tasks and prioritizing them in your calendar? And how could you improve in this area? And what is one thing you can do to make this better for yourself? Okay, the third big idea that I want to share with you today is that you need to safeguard your schedule. So you've made your plan. So you've gone through that list. You've created all the things that you need to do for this quarter and January. And you've now put the key dates and deadlines in your calendar. You've time blocked key tasks such as batching content. You've time blocked key tasks such as client project work or, marketing work that needs to happen, photo shoots, all of those things, they're in your calendar. and you've put in those important dates, whether you know them already ahead of time, and it doesn't hurt to just reach out to the school or reach out to the sporting organizations or the clubs or the activities that your children are involved in and say, do you have a date yet for the school concert or for this concert? And put that in your calendar. If you can't get a date off them and you don't have something to refer back to from the previous year, then I would just suggest that you allow for that last 2 weeks of term to just be a lighter load, that you're not doing a heavy schedule on your work activities, because inevitably there will be lots of things to do with school and children in that period of time. Obviously, this relates to people who've got kids. If you don't, then there will be other things. Maybe it's like a huge social catch up with friends. So you just put it in the calendar so that you know you're not going to be overwhelmed at that time of year. And I want you to know that you've made your plan. You now need to defend it. You will come under siege. You will have new requests, new challenges, but you need to stay focused and committed to what you set out to achieve. And the more that you can plan now, the easier it will be to defend later. Because if you don't have a plan or it's really vague, that's where it's really easy to kind of go, oh, well, I don't really know what I'm doing. And so that's when you kind of get a bit wishy-washy and then everything starts to crumble and fall. But the clearer you are at the outset, and you are choosing, even if you're choosing to say, hey, I'm going to make family a priority, or I'm going to be social this season, or, whatever that looks like for you, but just plan it and pull it in your calendar. And then you can enjoy it rather than feeling guilty about work or guilty about children or guilty about your social life. So just put it into the calendar. And it's so important that you then communicate these goals and boundaries to your clients, to people in your family, to friends, if that relates to you, and just setting those expectations, particularly with clients, on when work will be completed and when you'll be unavailable, and letting members know, and even your children say, look, we're going to be having lots of family time in these months or these weeks, and so I need to focus on getting this done now. And if you can honor that and respect that and follow through with that, then you're gonna build a lot of trust up with your children as well. So clear communication is really important, and setting those boundaries will really avoid last minute pressure. It will prevent you from overcommitting, because you'll know already what you do have on your schedule or your calendar, and it will really help you be present in both your personal life and your business life, and will allow you to enjoy the holiday season while still meeting your end of year objectives. So here are some tips in relation to just defending your calendar and respecting and honoring the decisions that you make ahead of time. So like I said, time block your calendar, and you can just refer to that and say, look, if you get requests that come up, say, look, I'm already booked on that day. And so then allocate, if you've let the last 2 weeks of term be that your more social time, then say, but I'm free here on this date. How about we meet on this date? Number 2 is to communicate early and often. So it's really about setting expectations, and clients will respect you more. Your family will respect you more. It will just be so much more peaceful for you. Number 3 is to automate and set up auto responses where you can. So use technology to free up your time. There is so much that you can do ahead of time to really save yourself a huge amount of stress in this way. And number 4 is to master the art of no. And I'm going to give you some sentences that you can practice, or maybe you want to jot these down. But just know that with saying no, the more you practice it, the better you will get. So you can say, I can't take that on right now. Or you can say, I don't have time in my calendar schedule right now. Or you can say, I'm already working on other commitments and can't take this on. You can say, I appreciate the offer, but my schedule is already full. Or you can say, what a wonderful project. I've got some time next month or in January, and let's book that in now. So there are so many ways that you can say no in a way that feels clear, it feels kind, it feels confident, and it respects your calendar, but it still works in with your end goal. So if you still want that project, or if you still want to meet up with that person, you can say no for now, but let's put it in the calendar for this date. And that is just a really clear, kind, and confident way to respect your boundaries and say no in a way that feels good and in alignment for you. So take stock. Where are you with saying no? Where are you with setting, and respecting your boundaries right now? What hasn't worked for you in the past? And what can you do to improve upon this year? Think about, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? And if you were to get better at this, how could this help you in your personal and professional life? So I want you to just take a moment to think about how you have approached this season previously. What worked? What didn't? How can you improve? And how can you implement any of these ideas that I've shared with you today? And just think about as well, what are you missing out on? What is it costing you by just trying to wing it? What is that costing you personally, professionally? What is it costing you with your peace and your sense of energy and alignment as well? So we've looked at 3 key ideas in terms of what really works for me, and I've shared how you can perhaps implement this into your schedule. The first is to be proactive to master your time. So that we need to take the steps now to really be intentional about what this time of year is going to look like. And the more that we can be intentional and give the time and energy now, the more it is going to serve us as we proceed through this quarter and proceed through this season. So I really encourage you to take some time to write a list of all the things that you need to do for this coming quarter, write them down, prioritize them using that matrix. So basically, like, what do you need to do? What can you delete? What can you defer? And what can you delegate? Like, they're 4 good ways to think of it. So within that, then put those most important tasks in your calendar, time block, because then this is going to prevent you from doing things that aren't important or just being in reactive mode all the time. And look at where you can perhaps ease off towards this period so that you can allow more time for the personal and, those times where you do want to be more social and enjoy the season. The big idea number 2 was, how can you elevate your experience? So really looking at ways that you can delegate and automate so that you can lighten your load as well. And really, get creative with this. Look at different ways that you can use technology, or you can use your team to help simplify your processes, or really look at what's not important. What are we doing right now that's actually not moving the needle? And this can be bookmarked for quarter 1. Maybe we don't need to be updating the website right now. Like, what are the things that are going to be the most important in your business to hit those revenue goals, or the most important, within your personal goals, and really focus on those. And other things go, what? Is this the most important activity that we need to be focusing on this quarter? And then number 3 is to safeguard your schedule. So really make sure that you are respecting the decisions that you've made ahead of time. Don't forget that when we are in the planning phase, we are using our prefrontal cortex. We're using that high functioning part of our brain. And that is when we make good decisions. When we are in reactive mode, that's when we're kind of in that primitive part of our brain. And that tends to be when we make the bad decisions. So we really want to always refer back to that time when we were clear, when we had that clarity, when we had that focus, and respect the decisions that we make in that period. And so be careful of any kind of decision that is reactive, because often that is a decision that's made out of fear. It's a decision that's made out of, scarcity and things that aren't ultimately going to serve you or your long-term goals. And like I said, these are the things that, to be proactive with mastering your time, to really look at delegating and automating, that matrix that we spoke about, and then really defending your schedule, safeguarding your schedule. Those are the 3 key activities. And like I said, I've broken it down into other steps. I want you to think about, how can you get this into your calendar? How can you make the time? Do you have time to just, after this episode, to just press pause and go and do a big brain dump now and start putting some of those key dates in? If you're driving and maybe you're about to head to a meeting and you can't do it straight after this podcast, then when can you do it? I really encourage you to make the time to do this and do it now. The more that you can prepare now, the better you're going to set yourself up for success, not only for the rest of this quarter and the rest of this season, but also it's going to set yourself up for success in 2025. I hope that this has been valuable for you. I hope that this has given you that encouragement and that motivation to start making plans, and stay tuned for next week, because next week we're going to talk about how you can start setting yourself up for success in 2025. And I will be sharing details on how you can join me in a live planning session. And I can't wait for that. I hope you found this valuable, and I look forward to connecting again with you very soon. Okay, and let me know how you go. Share in the DMs on Instagram at Natalie Walton. We'd love to hear from you. Share a photo of you and your calendar time blocked, or share a photo of your brain dump of notes. I want to hear from you. I want to see that you're doing it, and I'm here to help keep you accountable. All right, until next week, get planning and get proactive and enjoy the process. Thanks so much. All of the links and info for this episode are at nataliewalton.com/podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can get a direct download of the latest episode. And I really appreciate when you take a minute to rate and review, as well as share the love with someone you know who might benefit from this episode, or on social media. If you'd like to access a range of free resources, come visit my website, nataliewalton.com. Thank you to Jaeger Media for producing this podcast. And I would also like to acknowledge the people of the Bundjalung Nation where it was recorded, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I look forward to connecting again soon. I'm Natalie Walton, and you've been listening to Imprint.